got a great guest with us today. Julia George joins us here in a broadcast, Amala, Life on Lockdown, and that is the latest from her. She joins us today here on a broadcast. So your book is stealing the hearts of reading enthusiasts everywhere. Talk to us a little bit about the writing process for this book.
Great, I will. First of all, this book, the whole concept of the book, about this woman being abused, it's been on my mind for a while now. I did a few short stories a while ago, but then I really didn't execute it to a book. Then now I was like, the title itself, like Amala, Life on Lockdown, and it came to a point where I was like, it's the best time to give it a shot, give it a go. And I just did it, like probably sat like 9 o'clock or something in the nighttime, and I was able to move out of the chair after completing the whole book, probably 12 o'clock the next noon. So it was definitely a drive to like try to sequence it and everything and finish it off, and only then move from the seat, But it took about 7 hours to actually complete the story. So it was a joyride for me because I had the story in mind, and then just to put it in paper and to get it out was the next task.
Julia George joins us today here on iHeartRadio, talking a little bit about her book, Amala, Life on Lockdown. And she's with us today here on Skype Audio. So what elements did you draw upon to develop some of the main characters?
Basically, the two main characters, like she's talking to a friend, a newfound friend on the flight, and how she comes across this friend and how the friend is really eager to know more about the story, what she has to communicate. So the story has been narrated over a flight journey. So basically it's just the whole aspect of two completely unknown people, strangers, coming together just out of nowhere, and they become friends. And she's sharing the story with the person who's along with her on this flight journey. So it just goes on from there, and how she starts, sharing the story, and how she starts narrating it, and how it goes on further.
We have got a tremendous guest joining us today here on the broadcast. Julia George is with us. She joins us today here on Skype Audio. And you can download our program on Spotify, also TalkShoe as well. And the latest is Amala, Life on Lockdown. So what kind of reactions have you been getting to the book so far?
Okay, so basically good. A little mixed, sort of, because there's some people like, oh, the writing is so plain, simple. And then for those readers out there, I'm just like, it's meant to be a simple book. It was meant to have a simple writing because the whole narration is happening on the spot. Like she's kind of, stuck in a flight where she can't really exhilarate or be ecstatic about the whole story. So she's kind of literally typing it out to this newfound friend or Kindle. So the storyline and the way it's said, it's a very simple story, and people out of from Arab, from Canada, are actually looking into the book. And a few of my friends reached out to me, and they were like, you know what, the story is great, and thank you. It definitely talks about abuse. It talks about women being abused, and so many people after marriage go through several, extreme things in their life, and they're not talking about it, or they can't because they're very much ashamed about saying something similar about that.
It is a tremendous guest with us today. The book is Amala, Life on Lockdown. Julia George joins us today here on our big program. So give us the profile of the typical reader who's going to love your book.
Basically, anyone who's really up for a read, anyone who's looking for a story, anyone who's supporting, women, and those, to trying to stand up against abuse. This is something similar to that. And I think there's going to be different kinds of readers interested in the book. I don't think there's a specific group as such, but I'm definitely sure there's a wide variety of things happening in the book. So it definitely is a curious venture for anyone to pick up on.
Julia George with us today. Amala, Life on Lockdown is the latest from her, and she joins us today here on iHeartRadio. Also, 50-plus AM FM stations across the country and around the world. So what is the overall theme of your book?
Well, thank you again for having me on the show. So just as I was saying, the book itself is mainly focusing on abuse, about women, how the whole process of she going through a lot of tragedies in her life. And then she was so tunnel vision and she thought that that's it kind of thing. And then something happens and that kind of changes her life. And this whole story is like, because it's fiction, and she itself, as she's narrating the story, it's kind of telling the audience or the readers the fact that it is fiction. So, to just embrace the story as it is about abuse and about what it really implies on about women, and how her at the end of her like a little victory she has, it speaks to a lot of people.
We have got Julia George joining us today. Amala, Life on Lockdown is the latest from her, and you can find her on Instagram. It is julia.g.official, and she joins us today here on iHeartRadio. This book, incredibly well written. You've put a lot of time and effort into the book. What do you want readers to take away from your writing of this great book?
Basically, how can you in the community help people who are being abused? Or what can we as individuals do and support people? How can we raise awareness or raise funds to help such people? It's easy for abusers to abuse a woman or abuse a man, either way, the two extremes, and dump them in some asylum, and they don't even have a voice. They don't even have a place to go, or they don't even have a place to talk. So this person who's the victim is already dumped, and there's no one. And the abuser is roaming around free, they're happy to be doing that. So it comes to a point where do we put our foot down and say that, no, it's not okay for an abuser to be walking around freely, while someone who extremely went through the abuse and is put down in an asylum thanks to this abuser. So how can we help these women? And I'm sure there are different associations out there who are doing their bit already, but there's still women who are from Asia and, stuck in U.S., without a job, without a proper bank balance and stuff they really don't have means to just be able to voice out, because they're threatened that, if you go out, if you speak up, next thing I'm going to do something even worse to you. And there are several women out there, and I think this definitely is a medium for many women to actually be at least, give them the support they need so that they can become independent, so that at least meanwhile they figure out a way to get out of the abuse.
Julia George joins us today here on our big program. Amala, Life on Lockdown is the latest from her, and she joins today here via Skype audio. So do you have a specific writing style?
Basically, my genre was fiction, specifically for this book, because I have been through several women. I've seen many women go through such stuff. They've been through abuse and stuff. And I really didn't want to put names out there oh, this is the person I know and this is what had happened. Instead, this story happened, and I think this was the best way to put it out there. Stuff like this is for real. Stuff like this really happens. But for now, it's just a story, and that's all that matters. So for me, it was a proper venture to not make it a legal implication to anybody, or like, why did you do this to someone in your family or something like that. But it was more of a story so that people can embrace and understand that these kind of things happen.
Julia George with us today. Amala, Life on Lockdown is the latest from her, and she joins today here on iHeartRadio. So, talk to me a little bit about your writing career. What got you started in the world of writing?
So basically, I have been looking forward to, like, I've acted in movies, in films, long time. It's been a while now, but I'm very like a movie fanatic, so I love watching movies and doing movies. And this was a story somewhere, there, like, in my mind, because I was not able to actually proceed with movie career. So I was like, giving this author, like, this specific subject where it's very concerning about abuse and stuff, it went to a whole different level when I was able to actually take it to writing. So my big next thing is I was approached by probably two people to, like, someone asking me, why not make it a movie? And being a big fanatic of movies and, have being an actress and have seen firsthand how direction works, I thought this was a good way for me to further up to making a movie out of this book. So right now, for me, it's like Amala is going to go places because she's, there might be a series to it or a new story. But for now, it's just that, I really am interested to with the advice of many other older professionals in the film industry, I'm really interested to take it to the next step of making it a movie first. So let's see how it goes,
We have got Julia George with us today, Amala, Life on Lockdown. So what were some of the challenges, research, literary, psychological, logistical, in putting this book together?
Research, I have a master's background in women's health. So I have a little knowledge about women and, the whole life cycle, the health, physiological, and, like the biochemistry or anything what's required to know how a woman's health should be. When abuse is concerned, there's one huge issue that hormonally it affects a woman. It affects the way she thinks about herself. It affects her appearance. It affects how she is being treated in the community or elsewhere. Because if, she doesn't feel good about herself, how is she going to even take herself out to the world or to anyone in person and be able to be like, hey, I'm an individual who's confident enough when she's been constantly abused inside the house. So, having that in mind and having seen many women around me in families and, in the community, that was my inspiration. And of course, it does have a little bit of myself experiences there too. So it definitely came up to a whole new level of, trying to bring this one character into materialistic view on paper. So yeah, it was a lot of collaborative, whatever exposure I've had so far, which helped me bring this character life.
Well, I'll tell you, it is an amazing book. You've put a lot of cool things here. You should be very proud of yourself. Check out Amala, Life on Lockdown. And before we let you go, what's next for you as an author?
I'm hoping, being positive about how this book goes. I want to take it to places because it is available in different countries. I want many women out there to be able to, pitch in their work, like their interest about what the book is. So I'm going to take it a little further and hope that this book gets gets the maximum reach it can. And definitely there will be more in the future when writing is concerned. But right now, it's just the fact that I do want it to be on screen, like, where I get a bigger audience, where there are people who, internationally, there's universally, there's a bigger audience to appreciate or understand the concern about this specific issue.
Well, Julia, it's been an honor and a treat. I appreciate you making time for us today and being on the big broadcast. And you can pick a book up on Amazon, and it's Amala, Life on Lockdown. Well, Julia, have yourself a wonderful, wonderful Monday, and we will talk to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. There she goes, Julia George. And we are going to take a brief time out. And when we come back, we have got more coming up on the other side. It is the Word.